Welcome. Today we are going to take a little shore leave. After all, according to the star date, this episode takes place not long after the menagerie, when Spock committed mutiny and hijacked the Enterprise to a restricted planet, putting them all at risk of the death penalty. So yes, they could use a little break. But of course, we are still going to take 1 point away for any continuity error or plot issue, since even on vacation, they are being scrutinized. The first point is lost because that is Florida, not an unknown planet. There is a new yeoman on the bridge, Yeoman Barrows. In Season 1, they try to have a different yeoman each episode, the same way Murphy Brown had a different secretary. This is an excellent that's what she said moment. I am going to pass for this episode, partly because this scene has enough comedy as it is. Ironically, Spock suggests to Kirk to go on shore leave after all he has been through, even though Spock was the cause of all the trouble in the first place. Either the writers forgot the continuity of the star dates, or Spock is just being logical. We will never know. I am going to have to take a point here for a plot hole. Either the planet's creators would have had a satellite in space warning others that this planet isn't meant for them, or the Enterprise's censors should have found that underground energy source sooner. Instead, the caretaker of the planet says, let's just mess with them like anybody else. And here is the proof they know the Enterprise isn't one of their own, since their scanners can reproduce Earth replicas so quickly and accurately, they should have realized right then. Here is where Barrows and Spock both push Kirk onto a shore leave party. Spock is half right in what he says about resting. Vulcans have been known to participate in sports and physique unique sites. I think he is more referring to Vulcan meditation. This is also a rare time when McCoy doesn't contact Kirk correctly. He goes through Uhura first. The rabbit really got to him. Kirk just thinks this is McCoy's way of getting him down to the surface. Spock gives Kirk an ultimatum. This will be repeated on Captain Picard in his Captain's Holiday episode. Oh look, their scanners found nothing. Another thing they missed is that this is an English garden, which by definition is designed to look natural. A French garden is where everything is obviously human designed. So they lose another point, especially since Sulu the botanist didn't know this natural glade isn't naturally overgrown. So if this was a second season episode, that would be Chekhov. And look, is Angela Martin from the previous episode Balance of Terror hitting on him? She just lost her fiancé a week ago. But if you go by the star date and not the air date, it was at least 6 months, so no judging her. However, Kirk addresses them as Rodriguez and Teller. Did she change her name to Teller? Or did she marry someone else during that time? Or did the writers and directors mess up somewhere? So, -1 point for no explanation. McCoy shows Kirk the footprints, but Kirk is concerned it is a more serious creature than a giant rabbit and postpones shore leave. And why does Kirk have a phaser? The planet is uninhabited. The only purpose is so later when they try to use them to stop Don Juan and the others they won't work, so it really is a plot device. But Starfleet protocol might have some policy regarding uninhabited planets, so I can't take a point away this time. I want to though. Now they hear gunshots, so while they run to the noise, I have to take another point, since they run past so many trees with red and green paint on them and they never seem to notice. You don't really see it in the still photos, but Burroughs is really gasping for air. Did they just run there and start the scene automatically, or did they tell her to gasp for air? We will never know. Kirk spoils all the fun. He takes away his gun, but lets Sulu keep his phaser. The rabbit tracks show up again. Kirk tells Barrows and Sulu to follow the rabbit tracks. It looks like Sulu needs to steer Barrows. Is she really that out of breath? Is this the lagoon from Gilligan's Island? So the scanner pops up after they go by, but they still walk past the tree with the red paint. And how do they not notice the grass hut? So -1 point for missing the tiki shack. So here Kirk first mentions Finnegan. More as a practical joker with 200-year-old pranks, when in real life he's really more of a bully. And more tracks, but they're standing on grass this time, not dirt. And how can he tell those footprints belong to a girl? Why did Kirk tell McCoy to follow the rabbit tracks? Didn't he forget just 5 minutes ago he sent Sulu and Barrows to follow the tracks? And if they're going in opposite directions, they wouldn't meet again in a big circle behind the rocks. And they lose a point for not noticing the big dirt road going to the tiki hut. The whole purpose of them splitting up is so Kirk can meet Finnegan in his Starfleet cadet uniform. The first thing he does is punch Kirk. Then a scream interrupts their dance. Yeoman Barrows is up against a tree with red paint. Her dress is torn, and Kirk asks if she imagined the whole thing. And it turns out she was thinking of Don Juan, and he suddenly appeared. Sulu ran after Don Juan, and Kirk goes and looks for Sulu. He could have just used his communicator. He runs down this trail a few times, and now whenever you see that antenna, it's a sign something is going to happen. This is a good transition between the two shooting locations of the closed Africa USA and Vasquez Rocks, where the plants just open up to the rocks. The other transitions are much choppier. Kirk may be looking for a missing officer, but he always has time to stop and smell the flowers. The crew is easily distracted in this episode. And now here comes Ruth, an old Kirk flame from 15 years ago. He really shouldn't say you haven't aged. I think he's a little distracted right now. This is the best line of the show. Spock notices lots of underground activity. Why did it take so long to discover? And why is it draining the ship? Kirk told everyone to meet at the Glade, but he's going the wrong way. It's good to see McCoy and Barrows hook up, but I do have to take a point here for an outdated pickup line. He is comparing himself to someone that just attacked her. And instead of being offended by it, it turns her on. This scene would have never been shot that way today. The dress appears, and then there are several minutes of silly small talk between them. Ironically, Rodriguez will pass on the captain's orders, but doesn't call for help even though they are about to be attacked by the Tiger. In actuality, the whole purpose of Rodriguez calling is so McCoy was too busy and couldn't peek while she was changing. This is a good transition screenshot. Spock is still on the Enterprise trying to figure out what is going on. Kirk tells him not to beam down an armed party since they already have phasers. So I guess he was right about arming the landing party after all. This is a very good special effect. It isn't a trap door at all, just a board they lift up with wires, and the way they cut back and forth in the scene gives you the impression the samurai really does come out of the ground. Today, instead of using the two wires and a board, this simple special effect would cost $5 million in computer graphics. Sulu finds Kirk, who still hasn't made it back to the Glade where he told everyone to meet. He's still looking for Ruth. Now, Sulu doesn't lose a point for saying someone is beaming down from the bridge, but Spock loses a point for not sending the shuttlecraft down instead. After all, he says the transporter is worthless, and they are all now trapped there. And who is in command of the ship now? Transporting down when you're in charge of the ship is not the logical thing to do. Dr. McCoy confronts Don Juan, convinced he isn't real, but he is real enough. McCoy is pretty tough in the series. He took one for the team in Miri as well. The phaser doesn't work, but the gun does. McCoy dies. Barrow freaks out. Kirk calms her down. Then Sulu makes a discovery. Look closely. Sulu has a tricorder, but Kirk asks Spock to examine the dummy with his tricorder instead. Either Kirk doesn't trust Sulu's observations, or Spock needed to say more lines in the show to fulfill his contract. The dummy is a real actor in heavy makeup. He moves a little bit, but in reality, the dummy might be able to move a little bit too. Spock's discovery is that everything on the planet is manufactured, including the plants. Why didn't Sulu the botanist figure that one out? Rodriguez gets them into trouble by talking about being attacked by World War II aircraft. While you watch this scene, it is a subtle reminder that if you're running with someone, especially if it's a girl you're trying to impress, don't drag her along with you. Eventually you will throw her onto the ground and slam her into a tree. The aircraft also serves as a distraction for McCoy's body to be taken away. Spock has started to figure things out, and when he explains it to Kirk, Finnegan shows up. And I will have to take another point here. McCoy was killed and disappeared, but Kirk is more concerned about beating the tar out of Finnegan than his own crew. The sole purpose of this scene is that the original Star Trek needed to have an old-fashioned fistfight once in a while. And this fight takes quite a bit of time, too. Spock has it figured out. But in order for them to get back to the Glade, they have to go through all the other characters that were thought up during the whole show. Why does the Tiger have a chain around his neck? Barrow's tunic is no longer torn, so -1 point. Don Juan makes a final appearance. Kirk lines up the crew, but where is Angela? Rodriguez doesn't confess that he just slammed her into a tree. Here comes the caretaker. He loses a point for sliding his hand along Barrow's cheek like a creepy old man. I don't think it's true that they haven't figured this out, because they have been scanning the minds of the crew and ship all this time. They would have realized that they are from Earth and not one of their own planets. And Sulu asks the question that this planet is built upon, about advanced races also needing playtime. Kirk asks about the doctor, and McCoy returns with 2 bunnies. His description of the technology he saw is interrupted by Barrows. Just look at her face. She is so happy that Dr. McCoy met some old friends from Rigel too. We never do learn where their race is from. Spock gets the girl, and he didn't even try. There is no explanation of why the planet was interfering with the Enterprise systems, but that has now all cleared up. The caretaker invites them to come down and enjoy themselves, and Kirk approves shore leave parties. Spock turned down a sure thing. Obviously, it isn't Ponfar time yet. And Angela magically reappears. Nobody asks where she was or what happened to her, so a -1 point for that lack of concern. Kirk tells Spock he will go to the ship, but Ruth reappears, and Kirk just wanders off. What Kirk should have been wishing for during his shore leave while on the rocks was not how to fight this guy, but how to fight this guy. Ironically, he is the same actor as this guy, so he was nearby. Back on the ship, the crew returns, and Spock doesn't seem to understand the concept of relaxation at all. I think that has changed in Vulcan lore, since they do play sports and have been known to visit historical sites. They all laugh and the Enterprise flies off, which isn't good since they were the first shore leave party and just left everyone else behind on the planet. So -1 point for a generic happy ending scene at the end of the episode. And now for the shore leave actors. Emily Vanks was voted Miss Rheingold in 1960. Shirley Bond was twice chosen as a cover girl for Parade magazine. We will see Barbara Baldwin one more time before she pursues a career as a casting director. Perry Lopez has more than 70 acting credits. Caretaker. Later he presented Mike Brady his Father of the Year award on the Brady Bunch. Bruce Mars left acting to join the Self-Realization Fellowship, where he became a senior monk and is now known as Brother Paramananda. Will we see Finnegan again? Like in a Star Trek movie about Kirk and Starfleet. That would be perfect. Wait, here's the movie, but no Finnegan. Big mistake. Remind me to take a point when I get to that movie later. And the Enterprise flies off from the unnamed shore leave planet with a score of 84%. That's it for now. Click that like button, the subscribe button, and that share button. Leave your comments below, specifically, who was Ruth? Why wasn't Finnegan in the Star Trek movie? Who was your favorite character? Thanks for viewing, and I will see you again real soon.